Good morning, everybody. I'm the last Omnitech, your favorite robot American, and welcome to a little live art stream we've got going on today. Appreciate everyone who's been tuning in lately, and to everyone who's been subscribing, it means a ton. Thank you. I genuinely am appreciative of all of you guys. You're incredible. Yeah, I'm just currently finishing getting the last of the promos out. You all know how it be. And if you don't know how it be, let me tell you, about, 20% of content creation is actually making the content, and then it feels like the rest of it is all just... it's all just advertising it, which feels really gross. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I really wish that weren't the case, but here we are, in the world where I spend a not inordinate amount of my time just chatting. But yes, so, let me just, there we go. Okay, cool. So make sure I've actually got... Does this thing not have the... That's weird. Hold on, I need to actually see where your chat is. Lock docs, reset docs, scene source, audio maker... Chat. There we go. I was like, where the hell's the chat this whole time? Chat just taking its sweet time, I see. There we go. Okay, cool. Now I can take this... Shrink this a little bit, and don't mind me as I do all the little behind-the-scenes stuff that I gotta do. There we go. Okay, cool. Well then, let's get to it, shall we? And we're going to set ourselves for about an hour and... We'll say in about an hour and 30 minutes. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Alright. Well, now that we're all set... Good morning, everybody! There we go. Good. Turns out that in order to actually not have my gamma shoot through the roof and make me look like a pasty white ghost, which I know I still look like one, I can only do so much, I have to just completely shut my windows. Turns out that even leaving Florida, the sun won't leave me alone. I hope you're all having a lovely day today. So today's going to be an interesting art stream. First off, for those of you who are unfamiliar with my old streams on YouTube, I used to have this thing, or besides doing like Brothers or Gentry, I actually had a whole other stream type, which was called, if I can open it, The Breakfast Club, where literally I would just sit around, eat, talk about what's going on in the world, what have you. It was a very chill format, but... we're not doing a real breakfast club because we're not just talking about stuff. What we are, though, however, since it is fair, and I do need to address it, is, well, full disclosure, I'm eating today while I'm doing my art. So, it's not much, but, Pop-Tarts, you know, strawberry. Wish they were wildberry, but, you know, we live in the world we live in, right? So... I'll have to get the wildberry Pop-Tarts soon anyway. So, since I don't plan on doing mukbang content on my channel ever, let's get to our art. So today's going to be an interesting webcomic stream. Normally I would choose one webcomic or the other, but today I'm both focusing on my Gentry, Dolaan, Anti-Fascist Helldivers 2 webcomic, and also on my Brothers, A Tale of Treachery Doom webcomic. I'm actually working on both, and I'm focusing on a specific aspect of it, which today would actually be character design. Remember Mics Are Alive? Hey, good to see you, Paul. I'm so excited for this Saturday, which, by the way, guys, before I forget, let's take a little moment to do the necessary things that must be done. Please like, subscribe, hit the, share the channel, share the videos. They go a long way. Likewise also, if you're interested as well, you might want to consider subscribing and liking on my Unicorn Head Studios channel, which actually, I'll put in the chat right there, since we're technically on the other channel. Not technically, we are. Multitasking. Yeah, it's a mood. You can go click there. That's my actual play TTRPG channel, which this weekend we will be live on. And of course, The second I go live, my phone just doesn't shut up. There we go. Quiet you. Not right now. Not right now. So, we'll be going live with that this weekend since I have an episode of Legacy First Flight that I've been super excited to run, which is my tabletop role-playing game, using my own system, set in the distant future in the world of tomorrow. I'm super excited about it. So, yeah. I'm glad to see we have a couple folks live. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing today. As you can see, I've already started doodling a little bit. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Gentry, Dolaan, Ain't No Fascist, I'm going to open this up over here so we don't have my, pages popping up constantly. So, Gentry, Dolaan, Ain't No Fascist is my... I guess, yeah, it is an, anti-fascist. It's my anti-fascist Helldivers 2 webcomic. Let's zoom in a little bit here. There we go. Oh, also, if anyone out there is interested in what I'm listening to, you can all find it on the, all inside the doobly doo below. So any of the music that I'm listening to is all there. It's all credited. Please go support those fantastic artists. They are all incredible, and they offer their work free of charge. They're just incredible stuff. So, Gentry, Dolaan, Ain't No Fascist is my anti-fascist Helldiver 2 webcomic, and I've been very much having a blast with it. We're kind of wrapping up the first two, the first arc. I don't consider the prologue arc of its first arc. I consider that necessary, unfortunate preamble. You all know the opening crawl in Star Wars and the opening crawl in tabletop role-playing game if you've ever played TTRPGs. There's that, we need to do a little framing moment. It just happens that we need to do a little framing moment took me 2 months to do, because it's webcomics, and I actually can't just doodle. I have to actually do paintings. I blame me. This is my fault. I chose to do full art comics. Likewise, also, I'm going to be working on my other webcomic today, which is Brothers, A Tale of Treachery and Doom, which I've been very excited about. Not sure I'm going to share all the details, because we got ourselves a new one. That's a lot of framing. It was only 4 episodes, really, is what it was. But uploading it once a week, and initially I was only uploading it like once every 2 weeks. So it took me a while to really get into the vibe of doing the webcomic. Actually, now that I think about it, I think the first Gentry was done week to week. I think that was the daily art challenge. I was just cranking them out at like Mach speed. But either way. So, Brothers, A Tale of Treachery and Doom. And you get a little peek at the next webcomic that's coming out that I'm going to be dropping probably in 2 weeks, like in a week. I think it's the 25th is when I'm... Oh god, it's a week. So yes, Brothers, A Tale of Treachery and Doom is set in the grimdark future universe of one-page rules, which is actually really fun. For those of you familiar with Warhammer 40,000, it is very much an analog to that, in the sense that it is set in a grimdark future, but it's a little bit... there's some distinctions, and I'm very grateful for those distinctions. Unlike Warhammer 40k, it's a total own setting, but it still keeps that grimdark Space Marine vibe that I'm going for. So, it's a tale of Space Marines. Whether you like Warhammer Space Marines, whether you like Warhammer or Halo Spartans, or, if you do like one-page brothers, good for you. I know that's probably not that many folks out there by comparison to Warhammer, but one-page rules is slowly growing, and I think it deserves it. So, we're going to be working on characters for both of these webcomics right now. So, at the moment, I sort of am I'm gonna actually leave this up to the chat. Paul, you're in the chat right now. Congratulations. You get to be the unfortunate person who decides which of these two things we're going to work on today first. Which of these two character designs am I going to go with first? Are we going to go with Brothers, A Tale of Treachery and Doom first? Or are we going to go instead with Helldivers 2, Gentry, Dolaan, Ain't No Fascist? Which of these two will we be doing today? As I shrink these, because my god, they're huge. There we go. Let's shrink that down to a slightly more manageable size. Bruh. Center. There we go. Sometimes the framing part is difficult. No one ever accused framing of being easy. In this case, literally framing the panels while you're live. So I'm going to leave that to you guys in chat to decide which one we're going to work on today first, because I have characters I want to do for both, and we're going to get to both of them. So, worst case, if I don't hear back in a few seconds, I will make that decision myself. I've been very excited for what we've been working on. I actually have sort of two things I'm keeping in the background here. So let's take a moment and think about this. So Gentry, Dolaan ain't no fascist. I plan on working on... I'm going to be working on character designs for both. Now, we're not going to finish them, but I've started them already. Because today, I'm aiming to keep this web stream under, like this live stream under a certain time frame. And I'll let you guys know when we're swapping from Helldivers to one-page rules. And I'll probably put it in the timestamps below. Just so that folks can, like, just click on the part they're interested if they're really interested in. But if you like one of my webcomics, you'll probably like the other. So, you know, consider subscribing to them and following them, as you would. And for those of you who are curious where to find them, don't worry, I got your back. You can find Gentry at this location, Gentry Dolaan ain't no fascist. And you can find Brothers, A Tale of Treachery and Doom. Let me just click that, actually. There we go. Cool. You can find Brothers, A Tale of Treachery and Doom here. There we go. Really wish I could just click a button and do that. I need to set my stream deck up for YouTube. I'm not used to that. So, you know what? I'm just going to choose. I'm going to flip a coin. I've been waiting long enough. Eeny, meeny, money, mo, da-da-da-da-da-da. We're starting with Helldivers. You can't stop me, kiddos. I choose my own fate. So, let's start with our first character that I'm drawing, at least in this instance. We've done a couple of Seif characters already. And we've even done even started working on the Vanguard figures. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, we have a couple of factions at play in Helldivers 2. I'm not going to bust out the full... I will bust out the full faction map, but we're not going to go totally crazy with it. So, this is a quick little, like, relationship map of all the factions at play within Gentry Dolaan ain't no fascist. Yes, I did a faction map for myself. No... I'm, you know, not going to apologize for it. What is it? Cringe is dead and I'm still here. So everything is centered around who Gentry trusts and distrusts, who they're working with. Since Gentry's infiltrating Super Earth, or really I should say, is sort of turncoating on Super Earth, we get to see how he's planning on working around the powers that be. So Gentry is part of the Vanguard, which is a subgroup of automatons under a commander known as the Coordinator. The Vanguard forces are a special forces group of automatons, namely under the command of a singular figure known, so far, to you guys anyway, only as Vanguard 14. So Vanguard 14 is kind of like Gentry's personal liaison, and technically not commander, but in the strictest sense, Gentry is his own thing. Gentry is Vanguard 0, which means he kind of has his own chain of command. He's basically a Helldiver for the automatons. So, as a result, we're kind of working with that. So I've shown a lot of the automaton figures. We've already done the Vanguard. We've already done what the Coordinator looks like. So, and of course, we have our titular character, if we go all the way back here. Come on. There we go. So we have our titular character already of Gentry in both of his forms. Let me just open up. Here we go. So Gentry as he eventually is going to look, which I'm going to touch this up because I'm not happy with the way that face art looks for him. I'm getting much better. This was drawn like literally months ago. And this was drawn recently. So Gentry in his current getup as he's trying to survive and escape from Chuhi. So these are the characters we've kind of already been doing. I even have a couple of Seif characters doodled up. in rapid order, that would be Eagle 13, that would be Amira. So Amira Colby, who is, his fighter pilot. You have Democracy Officer, I believe it is Harlan Durney? Yes, Harlan Durney. And we have Hector Rivera, who is Pelican 10, his dropship pilot. So all these figures we've already drawn, but so far it's only been about the bots and the Super Earth people. I want to go beyond that. In case that giant faction map wasn't clear enough, you'll have to pardon me as I'm closing all these. In case that giant faction map wasn't clear enough, we're doing a lot more than just Seif. So, if we're looking at purely human-centric forces here, Gentry, Truth Enforcers, Seif High Command, and technically human defectors. Technically. So, factoring in, oh yeah, and the Ministry of Truth, of course. Ministry of Truth and the Ministry of Expansion. So we got like a full third of this is human, but it's so much more than that in Helldivers. Today we're going to focus on a new faction that I have not talked at all about, and in fact my face is currently cutting off thanks to my camera. And that would be the TRA. TRA militants. So, who are the TRA? And what are they relevant, what's their relevant deal in the webcomic? I'm going to set myself a little timer so that I don't go over, and we're going to get to it. Let me just put that little timer on. Cool. Give myself about 30 minutes on this, since we've been going about 30 minutes. That'll give me 30 minutes for both webcomics, which feels pretty good. Beautiful. Alright. So, the TRA, as a sub-faction within Gentry, Dolaan, Ain't No Fascist, represent a specific type of treason that exists within the setting, because that's the whole point. I'm exploring what treason means in a world of fascism, which, there's a lot of treason in a world full of fascism like Helldivers, and we should respect that and understand that. And I think it's important that whenever we talk about, what it means to be a actual, resistance fighter, someone who's actually opposing the forces that be, I'm going to zoom in because I just really like this panel, and we can actually turn off the brothers panel. I just realized that I have that open. Let's pop the Gentry one on. There we go. Come on. Scooch down a little bit, buddy. There we are. Beautiful. Why was the brothers one off center? I did notice that too. It was a little weird. There we go. Okay, cool. Alright. So, Gentry. The whole point of Gentry's character is that he is new to the resistance forces of against Super Earth. Technically, he is still a part of the Helldivers, but that's because he's running deep cover. He is a Helldiver. He was recruited while he was captured on mission, and now he's going to keep that cover as long as he can. But that gives him a very Super Earth-centric view of the galaxy. And even though he's working directly for automatons, which gives him a very direct line to how they think, he's still human at the end of the day. But humanity isn't the only practical force in the galaxy. There are 3 major species in Helldivers at the moment. I'm sure there's more, but those are the 3 we know. Besides humanity, we're discounting humanity. So, the first species that almost everyone interacts with in Helldivers, in fact, it is the first species everyone interacts with in Helldivers, before even a human, you interact with Terminids. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with who the Terminids are and what they are as a species, quick little, pop in over here. I'm going to see if I can't make this big enough for you guys to actually just sort of see it. Fine, we'll do it this way. I just don't want to... I hate that it does that. I hate the snapping feature. Stop it. Stop it. Oh, mother... Fine, whatever. Whatever, fine, I don't care. Fine. Alright, so. Anyway, Terminids. Terminids are the first species you interact with in Helldivers. They are very much the bug analogs that we see in Starship Troopers, and the Zerg that we see in StarCraft, and the Tyranids in 40k. Everyone's got bugs. Everyone's got crustaceous beings that they honestly like fighting. That's kind of where we're at right now, in terms of the first enemy that we encounter in the game, the Terminids. But the Terminids are more than just their own faction. If you ever played on a Terminid map before. Every once in a while, as a Helldiver, you'll come across what's referred to as propaganda towers. And they say, and the objective is destroy, destroy Super Earth propaganda, or destroy anti-Super Earth propaganda tower, something like that. Well, these propaganda towers are human. They are basically just broadcasting imagery and radio signals into space, which are decrying the crimes of Super Earth. And just to make this very clear, in case you weren't aware of this, and you really should be made aware of this, we're the baddies. We're the baddies. Let's just make that clear. In Helldivers, humanity are not the good guys. We are absolutely the badniks. And that's fine. It's okay. No, it's not. It's terrible, but it's understandable. So, it's good framing to remember. But that raises the question, these bugs in the game, as awesome as the Terminids are, and I love the Terminids, they're so fun, they're not depicted as being able to really use human technology. In fact, actually, it's debatable how conscious many of them are. Like, they have some degree of awareness, and they are, in fact, I would say they're probably as intelligent as humans, but they're so alien they don't really vibe. Everything they do is biological. Like, they don't use technology. They adapt. That's their whole shtick. And so, why would they suddenly just turn to using radio towers and televisions? That seems odd. Well, it's because they're not the ones who are spreading that propaganda. There are human activists, human renegades, who turn against Super Earth and sympathize with the bugs. Which is strange, right? You'd think, why would they? What are you talking about? But the propaganda towers that you see in the game are quite explicit about the fact that it is very much about that. Let me see if I can open this up for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. Illegal broadcasts. That's what it's called. The illegal broadcast mission. So every once in a while, you will see illegal broadcast missions that you have to destroy. The obvious ones are the bot ones. Those are the ones we see the most of. These large towers that are sort of hovering in the distance. Here we go. Found them. So, these large towers are very specific to the Terminids, or not to the Terminids, but to any like Super Earth installation. They're normally used for broadcasting human propaganda, but they've been retrofitted and turned into instead broadcasters for illegal propaganda, as they like to call it. Illegal transmission. Technically, they don't even call it propaganda. They just say it's an illegal transmission. Probably because they don't want you to think about what they're saying. So they're just like, yeah, just destroy this. But if you notice, that's basically there to try to indoctrinate anyone who finds it. Who's going to find it? Helldivers. Other human colonists. It's literally a bunch of towers with a bunch of radio broadcasters on it, a bunch of communications towers on it, and a bunch of speakers. Well, if it's just for broadcasting out there, why would it have the cameras? Why would it have the speakers? Why would it have the televisions on it? Simple. They're trying to convince you. Which is why if you take more than 5 seconds to read them, you start seeing the messages. The automatons actually do, like, directly broadcast. We know that because the text on the screen is actually automaton font. It's actually automaton language, which apparently is, I think, Norwegian? As I recall, I think it's Norwegian or Swedish. I can't remember, but it's the same nationality. It's the same language as the nationality of the development team at Arrowhead, which is actually really cool. So if you ever want to know how to speak automaton, technically, it's I believe the term for that would be like Anglo-Swedish, I suppose, would be the term. It's just English in Sweden, which is very interesting. But for the Terminids, we find this, which is this threat is all about oil. The government made this. That's the actual text on the Terminid threat, which is interesting So the general idea is these towers are basically raised by colonists before we shut them down. But this raises a lot of questions. So, first off, there's colonists out there who are, digging into the truth, which is the fact that the Terminid threat is us. It's our fault. The Terminids used to be a species in Helldivers 2, or Helldivers 1, I should say, known as the Bugs. They were their own civilization. They operated vastly differently than we did, but they were very clearly self-aware and sapient. At least at one point, when they still had hive lords who acted like large neurological centers. Think like brain bugs from Starship Troopers. It's not that we didn't think that they were alive and aware. We know they are. Even like the bug warriors in Starship Troopers display hesitation, tactical movement, the ability to coordinate, thought, fear, pain reactions, desperation. These are not the actions of a non-aware entity. And the same thing goes for the Terminids. Terminids on their own naturally form patrols. They naturally reinforce places that are safe. They show affection. Literally, the first clip we've ever seen in the game is from the intro. In it, there's a bit where it's a Bile Titan. This bit here, this actual picture. This is one of the first things we see in game of the Terminids. And it's a Bile Titan engaging with warriors below it and very clearly communicating. This is not a mindless species. This isn't a species solely working on pheromones. This is a species that is engaging in real communication. They're self-aware still. But basically we beat the shit out of them, unfortunately. And when we did so, we basically took a self-aware species and started refining them for element 710. Yes, oil. It's the joke. They're oil. Yeah. We use that stuff in order to rapidly move from star to star. Basically, that element 710 is what our starship drives are powered on. And so we couldn't eliminate the Terminids. Instead, now we farm them. So modern Terminids are the term that humanity has applied to the bugs that we now farm after generations and generations of domestication, to the point where we're not even sure how self-aware they fully are. But again, evidence of self-awareness on display right here. They are very clearly self-aware and coordinated as a species, even without their hive lords, assuming there's not hive lords out there that are currently alive and now wrangling the whole species. But either way, they're self-aware. So if we have folks out there who are protesting, the crimes involved, why don't we have folks out there attempting to defend the Terminids? And that's where the TRA gets involved. So like I said, we have ourselves the TRA militants, who are actually a very specific group of human renegades in my webcomic. Again, I gotta emphasize, this is my webcomic. This is not quote-unquote fully canon. That's fine. I don't plan for it to be. I'm making a webcomic. My job's to tell a fun story. And honestly, Arrowhead's given me a lot to work with. So, the TRA represent a subfaction of human scientists who are aware, and we're going to center this on them now, because this is the relevant conversation to have. So the TRA are a group of human militants who used to be scientists who worked with and studied the Terminids. I'm not going to give away all their details because a lot of this is going to be for the webcomic, but their whole thing is they realize what they used to be. They realize what the Terminids used to be, and they are not okay with the exploitation of the Terminids. So, if we look at how they interact with everything else in regards to the Ministry of Expansion, who, by the way, those are the guys we can say they're the ones who are the drill baby drill. Literally, their logo is drilling. They're about exploiting natural resources. They're the guys who stole our starship drives and arc weapon technology from the Illuminate. They're the guys that refined the Terminids into into E710. They are always those guys. The TRA hates those guys. And the Ministry of Expansion exploits the TRA's, well, technically, the Terminids. And so, as a result, the TRA and them are opposed, very much like Greenpeace and oil drilling companies. Oh Oh, Greenpeace. I feel so bad about the... We're not going to get into current politics. Just know, right now, it's a mess. It's a mess, and I fucking hate the way the world... The arc of the world, please. Whoever's writing the story of the world, please. It's okay. It's dramatic enough. So, in regards to the Truth Enforcers subfaction of the webcomic, these guys are rooting out... They're basically Helldivers who work sort of parallel to the Ministry of Truth. And basically, the Ministry of Truth sees the TRA as below them. The Truth Enforcers, though, are just expendable enough to sort of throw at them. So, again, basically the TRA is hiding from the Truth Enforcers, trying their best to evade them. And they're trying to recruit from various human defectors, even though the human defectors themselves might not be okay with Super Earth, but there's a large difference. For anyone who's ever involved in organizing, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Between wanting change and wanting to make change. And the TRA are of the wanting to make change variety. They are what we would call activated. Whereas a lot of the human dissidents are not necessarily activated yet, they're just fleeing for their lives. All this is eventually with Gentry hoping to recruit them, because Gentry's whole thing is he's trying to gather effectively an army here. An army of folks who can help him attack or to strike at Super Earth eventually. And the TRA are kind of desperate and hopeful enough to maybe see if this guy's legit. But we'll get to it when we get to it. So that's the long and short of the TRA, who is my Terminid faction. If you want the cliff notes, like if I had to give you themes, the scientists from Avatar, then by that I mean like the James Cameron Avatar, not Earth, Wind, Fire, Water. The Na'vi researchers are basically what the TRA are for Terminids. That is the closest, most direct comparison I can make. Which is why we're gonna sort of focus on them. These guys are not the same thing as the Helldivers. Helldivers are geared to the nines, made to fight. These folks are not. Now, this is the first character I've designed from the faction. And I'm trying to go with a very specific grungy kind of aesthetic here. So, first off, the character's name that I'm working on right now, and let's zoom in on this so you guys can actually see it, be Patricia Lunali, Terminid's rights activist. And yes, that's what the TRA stands for. Terminid Rights Alliance would be the term that they would use. And yes, they would be mocked openly for it, unfortunately. We're going to go here. I'm just going to say baseline sketch. Cool. Disregard this. I'm using a lot of the same... I'm using a lot of the same templates for how I lay out my tabs. You guys don't care. I don't care either. Let's be real. I'm using a lot of... I basically just copy-paste tabs and delete them so I have my art sequence all ready to go. Speaking of, let's go over here. So Patricia here is was a Super Earth scientist, and now is a little bit more free, I think would be the term. A little more free thinking. I haven't fully fleshed out every detail about her, but I got some general inklings. First thing, Patricia is a colonist. She was from Super Earth at one point. Is that good? It's actually staying underneath there. Perfect. Let's make that 75. Beautiful. So Patricia was from Super Earth, and now lives... Oh, I should put this underneath here. There we go. On the actual flesh. Perfect, on the flesh layer. Patricia used to be a Super Earth scientist working for Seif. Now she's a rebel. Kind of against her will. Not kind of. She is a rebel against her will. She just doesn't think we should be preying upon a bunch of sapient species to turn them into oil for our benefit. That feels pretty stinky. So, that's one. I have yet to think of like a nationality equivalent or a cultural touchstone for her. Again, this is Helldivers, so like, it's not a perfect one-to-one, but we do know there are like some colonies that are at least similar to the old nations of Earth. Gentry, as an example, is technically Australian. So, if you're all wondering what he sounds like, he actually sounds a little bit like me. I always thought that Gentry would be me, pretty much. I hope I'm not been peeking my mic this whole time. There we go. Perfect. So yeah, this is more or less how I imagine he would speak. More or less. I've yet to figure her out. The obvious and easy answer would be French, but that feels way too stereotypical, so we'll vibe with it. I do know that I want her to be more of a... I've kind of been debating, like, what hair color I should go for, and I'm thinking, like, the easy solution with her hairstyle would be like, hey, I'm just gonna slap the Major from Ghost in the Shell on. Just give her that purple hair. You gotta have purple hair. You gotta have blue hair. I think I just made a reference for all one of you who might be old enough to understand the to get strong bad references. I think I dated myself pretty hard with that one. But actually, I'm gonna try something else. Hey, good to see you now. How you doing? We're just working right now on a couple of character designs very quickly. Right now we're starting with a Gentry one. So this is Patricia Lunali, a Terminids rights activist, who is going to be appearing in the webcomic in one of the next arcs. So we're kind of just vibing that out. Let's start with the pale undershade. I like the idea of her having like Terminid colored hair. I think that could be really fun. Let's save this fast. And let's close some of the other stuff here. You don't need every detail open all the time. Here we go. Okay, so we're starting with white. Let's go with this, like a pale yellow, pale gold. Because I like the idea of her using Terminid colors. Which again, the Terminids don't have a faction per se of their own. In the strictest sense, the Terminids are actually a species. They're not really a faction. At least in terms of, like, their whole, like, they don't have a national identity, per se. It's not like they go like, yes, we are Terminids from Terminid land. We speak Terminish. No, they're an entire species. They've been preyed upon and ruthlessly exploited. So that's their whole thing. They don't have a national flag to identify with. But the colors that are usually used to identify them are yellow. So I like the idea of her using, like, cornflower, like, sort of color. Living, breathing, some hunting. Nice, very nice. Always a good start. Always a good start to the day. Oh, man. I wish I could play... I really do wish I could play Monster Hunter. But unfortunately, my computer just doesn't have the space for it. It's the curse of being an artist. Is that so many of the games you want to play are so poorly optimized. And you have to have your computer open and able to do other stuff. And so... I get to watch everyone else through the window like Squidward, watching people have fun. It's a very good-looking game, though. I just wish it was better optimized. Please, video game companies, for the love of God, optimize your games. Please. Like, Helldivers isn't that bad, but, like... I can't play Destiny. It's massive. I can't play Warframe. It's massive. I can't play... Monster Hunter Wilds. It's massive. A friend gifted me the game. Oh, that's awesome. I actually, for the record, and just to make this explicitly clear, my PC is powerful enough to stream while also doing art streams, while also recording, while also, like, having like a million tabs open. My PC is powerful enough to run these games, no problem. I just don't have the disk space to store them. Oh, God. Oh, God. Video game companies, please, figure your shit out. So, yeah. I'm just gonna quickly hit this. We're gonna start with, like, a very... I feel like we'll do roots here. Yeah, we'll do roots. We'll do the roots, like, sort of that ambery kind of shade. And anyone who's ever had a dye job would know, like, after a while it begins to fade and you kind of have to touch it up. I like the idea that she doesn't have the means of touching it up. Like, she has dyed her hair. She does dye her hair when she gets the chance. But, like, not enough for her to keep the color. It's always, like, perpetually bleeding away. Ugh, sorry about my sinuses, folks. It's killing me. So, we have ourselves our hair first, our hair color. As far as the eyes go, So one of the interesting things about this webcomic is never had performance issue in Wilds. Yeah, it's not necessarily the game doesn't work, for the record. I just want to make that very clear. I don't think it's that Monster Hunter Wilds is a poorly made game. Same thing goes for Warframe and Destiny. Obviously not. It's more a matter of they're not optimized to be run on a console, and so their storage needs are massive. Basically, a lot of these game companies keep making games, and as opposed to actually making games where it's like, oh yeah, no, you're going to optimize it a little bit so someone doesn't have to use their entire computer to store it. We're not going to do that. I have 2 terabytes of storage on my computer, but I'm an illustrator, so I use that 2 terabytes of storage pretty relentlessly. And if I play video games, it's because I've carefully laid out how much space I can use. So yeah, that's all I want. I just want that. So in terms of clothing here, I like the idea of us going with like a Super Earth sort of like a used Super Earth icon or used like Super Earth clothing. Now, fun fact, there actually is a Super Earth scientist image not in the game, but actually from Arrowhead explicitly. So if you play the game enough, you can unlock icons. I think it's a Steam icon, and it is a Seif scientist. So we got something to work with. On PC, the problem, more anti-copy software that's taxing? Yeah, no, that's fair. I just want these games to be... I just want the games to be able to be something I don't have to have, like... I shouldn't need 4 terabytes on my computer, but I feel like we're sprinting that way. This is a reminder, if anyone's interested, you can support me on my Patreon, and that, in fact, can help me get more RAM. And more, in this case, more disk space, more storage space. Because I very much appreciate anybody out there who's willing to support me on that. You can find my Patreon right in that link in the chat that I just dropped, so right over there. Please feel free to follow. I also put out a bunch of updates and alerts, so if you're interested in what my webcomics are doing, if you're interested in my tabletop role-playing games, honestly, you're going to find out all that stuff first. And if you subscribe to my Patreon at a paying tier, namely at the Trusted Comrade or higher tier, which is that's $11 a month, you guys get to read my webcomics 2 months in advance. Starting on the 25th, I'm going to start returning to doing my webcomics, alternating back and forth between either Gentry 1 week and Brothers the other, moving forward from the 25th onward. But for those of you guys who subscribe to my Patreon, you guys are going to get 4 comics that first time, not 2. So, just saying, it's a pretty good deal. You have to pardon me, but shilling is something that is mandatory. So, I gotta do what I gotta do to live. But yeah, so let's get the rest of this quickly like painted out so I can at least get her colors done. So I like the idea of her having that Super Earth scientist vibe. So we're gonna borrow some of those colors. So you have like a gray kind of base color suit and then a little bit of gold, which we can actually work into here very easily. So let's get ourselves a gold trim. We got 75. There we go. So get ourselves a gold trim on the inside of that lab coat. We'll do the same thing here with the tops of the buttons, tops of the pouches, so they're easy to spot. And I like the idea also of doing that down here with the tops of the boots. And this is just me getting a real quick, like, color guide together so I know what I'm doing in the future with her. And we're going to pull her hoodie back. Because I like the idea that this raincoat is, like, designed to work for her research as a terminid researcher. So it only makes sense that, like, you know, if you ever worked around or seen terminids in the game, they're kind of wet. Just, generally speaking, a little grody. So you're going to want to have something to protect you from that. So we're going to go with sort of that black layer there. I like the idea that there is a black, like, upper layer where it's sort of more rubberized and protected. There we go. We'll give ourselves the little pouch that she's got there. We'll give the back of the hood that rubberization as well. Her pants, I'm going to sort of keep them khaki. My initial thought was I could go with black, but black is a very specific color here, and I'm not sure I want to overuse that, if that makes sense. We'll also use the trim of her coat as well. Yeah, should be right there. There we go. Okay, so we're going to use that for just the rubberized parts of her boots, which are kind of like galoshes, I figure. Because again, you're working with Terminids, so everything's sticky and icky and full of acid, so you're going to want a lot of rubberized stuff. Let's go with a sort of a brown, I feel, again. We'll use the same similar color profiles here. Sort of almost a gamekeeper like style aesthetic here. Which sort of makes sense. She's basically a park ranger. In all, like, for all intents. There's a part of me that's like, I wonder how the coat would look brown? Or like the arms would look brown? It does break up the coloration a little bit, but I'm not sure I like that. I do feel like I want a little brown up there, though. Yeah, as much as I like the different colored sleeves, I don't think I'm going to do that. That said, I do feel like we need at least one more, like, shade of yellow here. So we're going to go and give her top, like a nice cornflower yellow. There we go. Alright, cool. So we got Patricia so far. I very much like the way she's turning out. Let's try and experiment fast. I'm going to see whether or not this works. But what if her coat was more white? That would give us a slightly better distinction between her science, her researcher coat, and the rest of her outfit. It'd give her a very standout image. I kind of like that, actually. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I actually really like that look. So that gives her kind of like a very practical sort of vibe to her design. She's a researcher. She should look like a researcher. We're going to rubberize those pockets, though, because, again, we're talking Terminid research here, so I figure if you're storing vials of acid and stuff on you, you want to make at least sure that the pockets you're reaching into aren't going to melt. That's just a me thing. I like my body unburned. I'm sure she's got a fair few of them on her, but... And also, let's give her, like, a little brass belt there. A little brass belt loop. Cool. So we got ourselves a pretty solid, like, base detail there. I'm going to fill a lot more of this out in the future. Because my eventual goal is I want to release all of these on the Patreon for folks who are interested in the setting and in the world, so that you guys can actually get access to some of the concept art and see what I'm doing. Let's also get her eyes very fast. I really want to do something about her eyes. So there's part of me that can just be like, oh, brown. But I'm not sure I like the idea of brown. Yeah, let's play around with it. Let's see what it looks like. What does brown look like on you? Oh, hold on. I actually need to put it above the sketch if that's the case. Oh, I kind of like that, actually. Oh, that gives her a very good vibe. I kind of dig the hell out of that. Let's darker color. Oh yeah, that's a good look. I'm digging it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I like that. I kind of wanted her to be more mischievous and mysterious. And also in the background, that's Gentry to scale for her. Gentry stands roughly about 6 foot nothing. So that would put her roughly at, we're looking at 6, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's about right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so that means that she would be roughly about 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5, 5, 2, 5, 3, which feels appropriate. I like that. I've done a lot of tall, strong characters. I want to do someone a little more weedy, you know? And I think she qualifies perfectly. So there we go. Our first TRA figure, Patricia Lunali, which I think is a great moment for us to rotate from here to Brothers. So let's pop on over here for a moment. And I'm just going to take a very, very quick moment. Give me a moment, very fast, to do a little bit of rotating. Alright. Thank you, folks. I appreciate your patience, minor though it is. So, we're going to shift our gears, going from Patricia Lunali and the TRA from Gentry, Dolaan, Ain't No Fascist. And we're going to go and rotate ourselves a little bit instead, as I pop on over here, make sure I got everything else I need. Actually, I think that's in here. Here we go. And we're going to rotate from that to instead Brothers, and begin doing a little bit of work on that. So for those of you guys who have been following the comic, you'll know they've been having a moot, and they were talking, so it's been a bunch of brothers talking with other brothers. It's been very fun to do that. But the brothers aren't just the guys who were in power armor, it's also the aliens that they fight, the Xenos. And I want to focus on that. This is not a story of the Imperium of Man in 40k. This is a story of Brothers of the Protectorate from Grimdark Future. Well, there's enough similarities where if you like Warhammer 40k Space Marines, you'll be right at home. But it is a slightly different faction. It is a slightly different setting. So today, I wanted to start making some of the non-human characters that we'll be seeing in the comic moving forward. In fact, that you guys will be seeing in this next arc immediately. Now, for those of you who are wondering, like, what is this? I actually have a couple of homebrew species that I'm putting inside this setting, because if there's one thing that always bugged me a lot in Warhammer 40k, is how they're talking about how there's countless Xenos, and we only get, like, 6 factions of them, and those maybe get updates once every 5 years. And if you're a Xenos player, or I should say, if you're a Dark Eldar player, I feel so bad for you guys. You get a range refresh basically every 20 years. So I've been designing a couple of species of my own, in addition to the ones from One Page Rules, which there's some pretty direct, like, correlations between them. We already talked about in one of the prior comics about the Robot Legion and how they're kind of the Necron analog, but really they act more like the Geth, or the, I always forget their name, the Kalon, from the Orville. So there's a little bit of distinction there, and they're very much a fun faction. But as far as the 2 species I've already made, we have the Chorus, who are their own telepathic species. They're kind of like, the only way I'd like to describe them is mixed xenomorphs with the Protoss. And you're sort of in that zone between. I'm still working out the details of them, and you guys will find out more in the webcomic as it happens. But this is where we start. So, the Chorus and the Chill Kit are the two species I've completely made from scratch. And I'm actually working on making rules for them in one-page rules. So, what can I say? It helps me actually figure out how battles work out in the comic if I actually have rules and boundaries around that in the game. So I organize, like, how would a battle like this work out? How mechanically would it work out on the battlefield? Is it fair? Like, am I unfairly depicting the level of, like, skill or the level of lethality of one of these sub-factions? And so, by applying rules to it, it gives me a hard limit on what they can do. Which gives me things to work around, because if anyone out there is a creative, and every one of you is in some way, shape, or form, you would know limitations often create new opportunities. So, the Chill Kit are one of my own species. I very much base them off of the, I think they're called like land sharks or the Greys from Battle LA. And if anyone out there has not seen Battle Los Angeles, I actually recommend it. It's a very early 2000s movie, but it's very good. It's probably one of the best, like, Alien First Contact war things. I'd say it's in a very narrow genre, with, I think, the only other ones being, like, the Tomorrow War, Edge of Tomorrow, and War of the Worlds. It's in that same vein, but I really like the alien biology of what they called the land sharks in that TV show, that movie. I was going to say every time a medium besides what it was. So I like the idea of this species. It's very strange that they have this very, like, amorphous, lumpy kind of form, and they bootstrap a lot of cybernetics on themselves. So the Chill Kit as a species are one faction. We have the Chorus as another, but I'm also using some of the OPR factions. And that includes the Saurians, the Saurian Star Host. So if anyone out there likes the Saurian Star Host, don't worry, you're not alone. I, in fact, also like the Saurian Star Host. I actually use, for my reference, for my paintings, my army. So I actually have Saurians right over here. And today, I'm working on a new character. A character very specific, if I open this up, there we go, to my army. This, my friends, is my Saurian warlord, Itzawan the Sunborn. And I actually customized him a fair bit. So, I gave him a couple, like, extra pipes on his back. There you go. Gave him extra pipes on his back. Gave him this shoulder pad, which is, there we go. Come on. I know you can do it. I believe in you. This camera I need a better focusing camera. So yeah, there we go. So that shoulder pad right there is actually adapted from a Saurian warrior helmet. But yeah, I customized him a little bit, and I like him. I like the idea of having a commander with his face out a little bit. Not normally for, like, Space Marines. I'm personally a believer in helmets. I like wearing them when I bike. I like wearing them when I'm doing dangerous work. But there's something about that helmet, that open-faced helmet, that immediately made me think about a specific game from a long time ago. And I can say that now because I'm old. Sad. 36, I'm not that old. But, like, in video gaming years, you know, I've seen the dawn of your time. And that would be the Elites from Halo. So, take a look at the first piece of art I'm doing for Itzawan. So, I'm actually currently in the process of figuring out how I'm going to transfer the exact color scheme from our buddy here onto there. So he's got a lot of white on him, because that's kind of my accent. I'm basically going to be treating the Saurians almost kind of like the Covenant in a lot of ways. So, we need to get some basics done here. I'm going to hit this color here. Since that gray works, we're going to duplicate it. I'm going to go over to like a sort of a blue shade to it. Here we go. Cool. That'll do. So let's get ourselves some color going. We've used darker color. This works. I think shade or hue will do fine for this. Saturation, will that do something? It might. Oh, that's perfect. Okay. 25%. Because I want to give a distinction between the flesh that they have and their gear, which often uses like a very gray, hard plastic. I actually have a painting recipe drawn up, which tells me exactly what paints to use to get the exact color scheme that I want to go for them. But unfortunately, that doesn't work very well with actual, like, painted art like this. I can't just go, oh, let me bust out my can of Drakenhof Nightshade and mix that along with a little bit of flat gray from the Army Painter range. I can't really do that here. So I have to make the equivalent of inks and paints and paint that way. Which, by the way, is why all my comics sort of look the way they do. I actually paint. I'm not doing render art. I tend not to do as many, like, as many sort of the same tricks a lot of other comic artists do that honestly saves them a lot of time and effort and is really the smart move. Do that if you do a webcomic in the future, please. But I very much enjoy working as a painter. And so for me, there's really not that much distinction between painting my miniatures and, honestly, painting a webcomic. It's pretty much the same technique. So in this case, I go with a flat gray, I give them a blue gloss, and that gets me that cool Saurian blue color that I'm looking for here. Now in terms of the other color schemes or color details we have on here, there's a silver, a gray, a brown, and a gold, and cyan details for the glow. Which you can already see I've got the cyan details there, all ready to go. So let's see, I believe I'm going to need brown next. It's like a sort of a ruddy brown almost. So this should do fine. And this is for all the leather straps and stuff that they use. They have a very... There's a reason I chose the Covenant as my art design element here. And that's because they actually share a lot in common with the Covenant. Namely, the Sangheili and the Brutes. This sort of like... have an undersuit kind of... Which is really just like, they're basically naked under there. They're dinosaurs. Like, they don't got nothing to hide. So all their clothing is practical. So for them, as opposed to wearing clothing like we do to largely cover ourselves and keep ourselves warm and cover our bits, for the Saurians, they kind of don't need to do that. They just sort of strap whatever practical equipment they need onto themselves and then go from there. I'm going to sort of pop in here and just sort of erase that color if I can. Let's see. Oh, that's right. I can just do this. Flop over. And I can go to saturation. There we go. Then I can sort of swap back onto this. Darker color. And in this case, we're actually going to do this as a normal. Because they have sort of this almost like fluffy collar that they have going on there. And I kind of wanted to get that. Because it's kind of relevant. It's like one of the few pieces of protective clothing that they actually wear. I figure they have energy shields. Again, very much like Halo. So I'm kind of going with that vibe. So we have that strap. What other straps do we have to worry about? The belt we already got. He has straps on the backs of his legs, but you really can't see them. So we'll just sort of put that like there. Another there, so it sort of is enough. And I think they actually don't have straps on the bottom of their tail. I guess those armor plates conform, which is kind of interesting. Okay, cool. So we have that. Now we have the actual hands, which is largely at this point going to be going to a yellow. They have like a gold kind of color scheme. I sort of went with an Elite Ultra as one of the references. Like one of the color references anyway. I think technically it's like a Sangheili Commander is what the color scheme is. Yeah, Sangheili Generals. is like sort of what I was going for here a little bit. It's like one particular piece of concept art that I remember seeing, and I was like, oh, it's perfect. Yeah, here we go. Because one of those, finding exactly the right art reference is very tough sometimes. You have to look, you have to search around a little bit. Let's see, Halo Reach Healy concept art. There's one particular one that I remember seeing being like, oh, it's perfect. It's not that, it was for Reach. Oh, well, whatever. We're gonna go with what we got. So, I sort of like the idea of using that gold kind of armor, but as opposed to what they have, where it's very metallic and very shiny. Wow, that's incredibly small. I like a slightly more muted ceramic color, kind of like this. So that's kind of what we're aiming for here. Not every detail on here is gonna be this gold. We're just going to go with a darker color. We're going to start off, they have white panels and gray panels, and in this case, they have the gold here. It's one there and sort of one there. He has gold stripes on the inside of his helmet here. There we go. We have the shoulder pad, where this part is definitely gold. On the arm, on the hand plates, he has this gold strip. Sort of denote rank. And then for the legs, these segmented pieces here, which I love, they're so good for like adding in bits of color. The middle pieces are both of them gold on both legs. Do the same strip of gold over here on that hand. Cool. There's also a large bit of gold on the top, sort of framing his armor a little bit and framing him. Sort of this bulky warrior aesthetic. And then on the bottom here, we have sort of the little, like, knee pads, which are sort of on the underside of that. I guess we can sort of count that as, like, that'd be just the normal gray and then the blue. Having a hard time with that one. Let's make that brown. Let's make that the brown. And we'll just say he's got some extra padding underneath there. Alright, cool. So we got some basics going here. Let's get our dark gray plastic going. I believe on the underside here, yeah, that's like a pale gray kind of that they got going. And I'm just sort of going to put this rubberized, like, layer between point A and point B. To sort of indicate they have, like, this sort of rubberized ceramic sort of armor as well. And this is, again, just a quick concept sketch. We're not doing, like, full-blown art here. I have to operate within the time frame of about 2 hours, so I don't, you know, go way over. I'm already over time. I already know I am. I feel like I'm over time. You know, let's check. How far over time am I? How long have I been broadcasting for? A bit. A little bit. But not too long. So yeah, we've got ourselves that sort of gray. There's that slate gray because he's got the metal on the bottom for his feet. Because these plates are definitely metal. And there's like a silver bit there as well. Now we're going to go hit this with a pale blue. So we can denote the distinction between the actual flesh and the armor. Cool. Nice. So we're going to sort of indicate where these plates are. Because most all Saurians have like these sort of armored toes, which I think are really cool. Again, very Halo-esque in their design aesthetic, which by the way is a high compliment to the design team at One Page Rules. They're very cool. Alright, and now we're going to start actually doing some painting, some just straight up normal painting here. Let's add some shading to this, so we can sort of see that it's not just pale. There's actually some, like, elements to it. And we're just going to add the extra sides over here, just to make that very clear where that color lies. And perfect. So that gives us a little bit of detail going into their feet. And makes their armor paneling not just seem like mystically white. Speaking of, I gotta get this centerpiece done right. So they have this very shiny centerpiece to their armor, and it feels like it's very important we get that correct. Because also, this part here connects underneath to create a completed sequence for the white chest plate. So I'm going to rotate between white and gray here. There we are. Cool. So that gives us a nice coloration for our armor. Here we go. Cool. So this feels like a pretty good bit of detail we've added in. And let's actually make that pure white there. Just so we can have, like, the parts facing upwards being the most white, and we can rotate that out. So now the gray is on the underside. Beautiful. So it gives it some actual shape a little bit. Perfect. Okay, cool. So that gives us a fair bit to go on. Put this about 25%. Let's get to work on the metallics. Because for most of this, that's actually gray. It's like slate gray, but there is a metallic bit down here. We're going to start with a darker gray, then build our way up until we have that metallic shine. Same thing here for the belts. Yeah, kind of like this weird magnetic grapple belt, which I love. Sort of reminds me of... Anybody as a kid remember those little magnetic bracelets you used to get? The ones that the two little, like, metal bulbs just sort of snap together? That's basically what we're doing right now. We're just doing it on a belt. Alright, so we got this. Let's get the shine going on it. I find one of the easiest ways to denote metal is to very clearly outline where and what it is. So, like, having very harsh highlights tends to help a lot. Basically, if you haven't panel lined the metal, you haven't made metal. That's, in my experience, how it tends to be. Also, I'm just going to sort of give this detail here. That works. That works pretty well. Cool. Now we're just going to hit this spot with a little black at the top. Same thing here. Because that's going to be the next part, which we'll get to when we get to it. Also up here, we need to hit these with gray, because these are also metal. Before I forget. Cool. So I like the... one of my favorite parts about one-page rules is how unique and diverse a lot of the species are in the setting. And they're very crazy diverse. They're not just one notes, usually. They have a fair bit of, like, nuance and detail added into them. And I love the Saurians because they're more than just the badniks you get to punch. They're their own species with their own culture, and very much not just the adversary. Very much like the Covenant, they kind of have their own vibe. And they've always had their own vibe. They've been existing since before humanity crawled out of the primordial soup. And they're sort of just doing what they gotta do. And if you end up fighting them, it's usually not because they dislike you or hate you, it's because you unfortunately got between them and what their obligation was, what they viewed their massive sacred task to be. Let's also pad this out a little more so it reads a little more like what it is, which is padding, basically. We're going to add a little extra in here. Sort of make that very clear what that is. There we go. That's not too bad. There we are. Cool. Let's see. Just going to add a little extra shading there. Okay, cool. We can get to the next step, which is adding some of the shiny details onto the other metal parts. We'll do that up here as well. Here we go. Take that. Beautiful. Perfect. Alright, so we got ourselves that little bit. Let's get a little more detail on there. Put this about 25% so we can get a little more of the shine of the direction of the metal. Because that often helps. Now we're going to hit this with a real high contrast in a minute. We do the same thing here. Cool. Now let's hit the actual, like, the highest or some of the highest contrast we can get. We're going to go as white as we can get on this. 45%. Literally as white as we can get. Let's make it even stronger. 75. Hell yeah. Now by adding this bright white highlighting, it'll let us know this is reflecting light, which implies it is in fact metallic. As opposed to the ceramic, which has a more matte sort of finish around it. And I need to be able to draw this at speed basically every time I draw these characters, which is why I had to kind of keep things easy. Like, I still do paintings, and so it's gonna be a lot of detail for a webcomic, but I need to have it where it's achievable. My goal is to create good comics, not, like, beautiful... Not like the best paintings in the world. I'm not a studio artist in that sense. I don't have the money. And even if I did, I wouldn't have the time to release that comic in a reasonable time frame. You all would be waiting forever to get the next comic if we did that, and I don't want to do that. I have a story I want to tell. So that means I gotta work within my time frame, respectfully. Cool. So we got ourselves a fair bit here. Feels pretty good. We're going to hit this with a nice, like, wash sort of effect. There we go. Now we can go in behind that. Here we go. Cool. Cool, that works. So let's add some more shadow here around where the panels connect in, because I want to get some nice division going. So you can sort of see the edge of where everything's connecting and how it connects. do the same thing here. Cool. We'll do the same thing on the underside of the arms. So this is going to be one of the first major Xenos characters we're going to see in the webcomic. And this is because I feel like it's important that we give ourselves a face for the adversaries the brothers will be facing, but also a face that's, like, actually meetable. So we're going to have a character who can be met where they are, as opposed to just, like... A lot of comics tend to make the alien out to be the guy that's, like, highly misunderstood, or the other. And this guy is the guy who's home. This is the guy who's doing his job. We're the one who's stepping on his toes, not the other way around. So I very much like the idea of him being almost Arbiter-esque, in the sense that he has a task he's been sworn to do. He needs to do it. This is what he must... This is the goal he must achieve, and unfortunately, we're in the way. I don't see him being, like, cacklingly evil or happy to do what he's doing. He's not eager to slaughter people. That's not his shtick. Also, by the way, for those of you who did play Halo, I'm sure plenty of you did. How many of you guys remember the Needler, by any chance? Fun times on the Needler, eh? I thought so too. That's why I like spike rifles and weapons like that for the Saurians, because they're basically just Needlers. It's so good. So yes, our boy here's got a spike rifle. Make it a little sharper and put this on normal so I can get some nice edges on those needles. And put this at like a 45, because it's already pretty bright. Here we go. Cool. Alright, so we got ourselves our needle weapons. We have ourselves our armor pretty much laid out. We're going to go to our gold, darken that up a little bit. So we have the undersides of these plates, because the shoulder pad is very big. And let's also go to the brown here fast. Let's get a little strap on the inside there, so we can show how it's connected. That it's not just floating, that he actually has it, like, attached to something. There we go. That works. Cool. Then finally we can pop in over here. Because these are actually divots. Which I definitely want to keep visible and legible. Here we go, and just like that, we have ourselves a Saurian shoulder pad. With some asymmetrical armor designs on it. That works pretty good. Nice. Alright. Now we just gotta get the weapons over here. This particular weapon, which is his Makwahedal. And we also need to get the light, which we will do right here, because he does actually have some lights on his helmet. So I kind of, again, I'm going for like an Arbiter sort of vibe for this guy. He's the overall commander of one of the factions, in this case, the Saurian star host known as the Edge of Dusk. Which, by the way, all here on the left. We're going to hit this. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I think we'll actually keep it at that color. I wonder if I can just drag this over to here. Hey, that works. That's perfect. Perfect. We're going to save that. And we're going to make it gold in that bit. Yeah, that'll do. Cool. So, Itzuan, the Sunborn Warlord. Saurian Sunborn Warlord. I figure he's a strategist. That's his whole thing. Let's go here. Hit this. No. Not what I wanted to do. Go to our brush. Go up to the actual art. Cool. So I've been a huge fan of Makwahedals for a really long time. I don't know, there's just something very satisfying about the idea that I can take a club made mostly of volcanic glass and swing it and have it be very effective. That's just very satisfying. It's basically just a baseball bat filled with broken glass, and I kind of love that. So we're going to lean into that a little bit here with this thing. It also has like a little tooth on the front. So, sort of got a punching blade built into it, which I like. And I'm, again, basing this pretty much off the model as it is off the shelf. I actually converted him, which I'm going to take a moment here and save, because I'll be very angry if I don't save this. And I'm going to make sure that I have... Yeah, everything else has been saved. Good. So, Itzuan here is actually based off of the model, like I mentioned before, that I'm using for my army. Which, if I pop over here... So this model is literally just a standard Saurian warrior, but I sawed the head off of another Saurian warrior, one of the helmets, and I turned it into a shoulder pad, as you can see. I'm unfortunately not a miniature painting channel, so I don't have the pretty... Like, I do have one of those little rotating stands, I just haven't used it yet. So, we'll see if I can get some high-quality images of these guys drawn later and post it up as part of what's going to be in the actual webcomic. But, in the meantime, I feel like that is a pretty good one-to-one for what we've got so far here. We just got to get the actual, like, Makwahedal, which is a very specific pattern to it. We'll finish this pattern and we'll call this stream an end. So let's go here. We're going to start with the light effects. Actually, we'll start with the slight dark shading here. There we go, going up. Because this actually does have a divot in it, so I want to make sure I got that conveyed very clearly. Cool. Okay, so with what we got, there's a sort of crowned arch structure at the top. Yeah, I am still alive. Hey, Natisha, good to see ya. Welcome aboard. We already finished the first character I was working on today, which would be, if I pop over here, Patricia Lunali. We got her more or less colored out and sketched. This is for the Helldiver comic. But we're now working on the other character, which is over here. Itzuan, who is actually based off of a actual Saurian warrior, my Saurian commander, who, if I can get this thing to focus again, it really loves to do that, where it's like, hey, I like to focus on your face, and I'm like, focus on him. Oi. Focus. There we are. So he actually turned out pretty good. So that became that. Yeah, make fan art of her? Oh, you're going to love her. She's actually going to be in one of the next arcs of the webcomic of Gentry, so I'm super excited for her. So yeah, now we're just sort of finishing off Itzawan here. I'm trying to capture the pattern of his Makwahital, because he has these very, like, intricate little patterns in there. Which, again, focus, 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 focus. Focus, curse you. Focus! Give it a second to try. Fine. It's not going to focus on me in the background. It's going to literally focus on my hand instead of the thing I'm holding up. But yeah, he's got this little, like, this really cool pattern, Mesoamerican pattern, built into his weapons. So I'm trying to stick with that. Yeah, I really am happy with the colors too. The Edge of Dawn, or the Edge of Dusk is like... So, this army is one I've been interested in collecting for a long time in one-page rules, and I finally was like, screw it, I'll just get it. But I always wanted to do a good color scheme for them. And I thought, I could just do, like, the standard, like, let's do white armor kind of vibe, and I debated doing that. But actually, for the majority of them, I'm not going to be doing standard white armor. The white armor is exclusively for the leader cast, and only really for him because he's the warlord. The rest of them I'm going to stick with yellow and gold, and not metallic gold. Intentionally non-metallic gold. Which I know, again, insane, but I've been avoiding painting a yellow army for a long time, and I wanted to try it. So here we are. And it means I have a very striking color scheme for the actual webcomic. So you have a couple of these, like, arches over here. It's very Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah, I very much like that. I like that comparison. I hadn't thought of that, but that's a very good point. Like, it is very Horizon Zero Dawn. My mind immediately went to the Halo Elites, was my big thing. I was like, yeah, it feels very much like Halo Reach Elites. They're kind of 50% leather, 50%, like, ceramic. But, yeah, no, I hadn't thought about Horizon Zero Dawn. Which is funny, because I think about Horizon Zero Dawn all the time. I didn't even have the ability to play that game, but for like a little bit before the divorce. Unfortunately, your boy lost the PlayStation in the divorce. I didn't get to keep all the kids. I lost one of the kids. That'd be the PlayStation. I actually didn't have children, so don't worry about that. I'm not actually bent out of shape about it, but it is one of those like, damn, I would love to play that game. It's so cool. It's such a cool game. Or Portal. You're right. I could totally see Portal. So we're going to start with like this low sort of humdrum kind of teal for the emitters. Because these are plasma. These are like pure plasma spitting out from this thing. It's basically a Makwahital. So like, just a Makwahital with plasma, which I'm not going to lie, that sounds so satisfying. We're just going to give them like a couple little symbols and stuff on there. Nothing too fancy. And then we're going to go for this. And I'm just tracking to make sure these patterns are staying the same. Awesome. Here we go. We take this, we pull that up. Cool. And then we just sort of take that bit there. Cool. So we got the beginnings of it. Now we're going to hit this with a very powerful light. I'm thinking we're going to go with, I think hard light will do. Yeah, hard light will do nicely. Oh, we need to do that over here too. Shit, hold on. I almost forgot about this guy over here. Whoops. These little tail bits actually have glow on them at the top too. There we go. Now we can get in there and sort of get that plasma vent at the very tippy top. Now we can actually go in here and get that hard light. There we go. We get some of that energy. So how you doing today, Natisha? You having a good day so far? And we're just going to sort of put this over here. Cool. All right, awesome. Yeah, for those of you who've been watching the video, you'll know this is an actual live stream. I can't fast forward or anything, which is why I did a lot of this before. At least I did a lot of the outlining the night before. I wanted to at least get some satisfying progress for you guys. And a lot of the sketching progress isn't like me actually doing sketching, it's me figuring out what I want to sketch. So it's nice to just sort of be like, okay, I got the hard, time-consuming part that most people don't really want to pay attention to out of the way, you know? Let's see, really behind on art, trying to catch up. Oh, that is a mood. That is a mood. I have 3 more comics I gotta do. I have 3 more comics I have to do, and those have to be done by the 25th. So I'm gonna be busy, but it's a good busy. It's an I've been waiting to do this for a while busy. Here we go. We're just going to sort of catch the edge of the Maquahital here. Make it very clear where those lines are. Part where you redraw the same line 100 times trying to get the right shape. Oh my god, yes. Sketch energy, right? Oh god. Yep. And I've had people say, oh, you could just use a line stabilizer. And I'm like, that only really works if I'm doing an outline I understand. If I'm just, like, feeling the vibe, I'm really, like, stabilizer does me no good at all. If the issue is me, not the art, I am the issue. Oh, man. But no, I feel that on a primal level. Oh, I'm going to just draw this. Oh, that line's not quite right. Let's try it again. Oh, that line's also not quite right. What the hell? 2.5 hours later, and you're just sitting there agonizing over the same line. You gotta find the shape. Yeah. It's sculpting, right? That's really what it is at the end of the day. It's an art form, man. You an artist. And there's your bi-weekly reference to Tropic Thunder. I guess it wouldn't be a complete day for me without referencing that movie at least once. There we go. Alright, I think we're at that point now where it's pretty much good to go. I just gotta add the sharpest light details and we're good. Because I don't want to go too hard on this. It's mostly a character study, right? So the whole point of this is vaguely how this character is going to look in the future. This is for me to be able to function as an artist later. Because while I do have my own model, I don't know, sometimes I end up revising my actual in real life miniatures, because when I draw them, I'm like, oh, this would look better. And then I actually do it, and I'm like, it does look better. So having an actual physical model as a maquette helps. But having a visual, like, goal for what I'm aiming for helps a lot, too. Here we go. I think we're in that final phase of the piece. Where I've more or less found all the shapes I want to find. And there we go. We're going to put that there so it looks like there's a glowing source of the plasma. Because again, it's literally plasma channels. I basically made a Aztec lightsaber, more or less, out of this thing. And I'm kind of pleased as punch about it. I am digging it. Here we go. Gonna do a character sheet for my Rogue Ranger. Nice. And I like the face, by the way. I just want to do one little detail. He's Saurian. He has teeth. The teeth are relevant. So we're just gonna give him some teeth. He's basically a raptor. They're raptor people, more or less. So we're just gonna give him a couple of like shiny teeth peering out over the edge. I'm just trying to see, like, they have teeth very much like us in that weird sense. Like, it's all canines, but they still have like the incisor positioned teeth. And their canines come out a little further. So I feel like I can sort of get a little more in there here. We'll see how that looks from a distance, and I hope it doesn't look too goofy. That doesn't look too bad. Teefers. Hey, Paul. Yeah, I got them teefers. And here we go. We're just going to finish that up with a nice catch of light on the edge of the teeth, just to denote them so they stand out a little more. Picking out highlights. That's what we do in miniatures. It's basically the same thing in painting. I use the exact same techniques. I actually really think there's a lot of great, like, miniature painters who would probably make excellent webcomic artists, or excellent, like, painters. Like, actual, just, like, standard painters. That's why I always recommend everybody, just give a shot at painting. Give a shot at art. If you've done miniature painting before, then give a shot at the other. Trust me, you'd be surprised how many of those things translate over. There we go. That works. Nib vibes, yeah. I don't know. I think I might have gone a little too overboard on the teeth. Maybe I should have kept it at the 4. I think I'll keep it at the 4, actually. I might add an extra setback here, increase it to the 6. So you have, like, very pronounced canines. Because I don't want to make it look like he's got a mouth. Like, you know, it needs to be easy for me to draw. So 6 teeth is probably the max I can get. Skills transfer hell in art. Yes, they absolutely do. Here we go. And... okay, I like that a lot better. I think the 6 teeth works way better than the billions of little teeth. What is it my grandmother used to call it? Rices. Like when little... if you ever look at a dog's mouth and you see their, like, front teeth, they have, like... it's almost like little rice. Like little... where their incisors are. Same thing, little rices. That feels pretty good, actually. I really like the way that turned out. Alright. Let's add a little sculpting here, just to get it very clear this is actually, like, ceramic. That it isn't just, like, white. I didn't forget to color it. I have intentionally left it that color. There we are. Oh, and I almost forgot one final little detail. The top of his antenna is also that bright cyan. Does it make much sense from a practical standpoint? No. You don't want to have the tallest part of your armor indicating where you are, but it's Warhammer. Or in this case, I should say, it's miniature wargaming. These minis are not meant to be practical. They're meant to be cool. Alright. I feel like we've done pretty good here. So, everybody say hello to Itzuan, Sunborn Warlord of the Edge of Dusk. And our first non-human character for the webcomic. Specifically for Brothers, A Tale of Treachery and Woe. Sorry, I keep saying Treachery and Woe. It's Treachery and Doom. Why do I keep wanting to say Woe? It's Treachery and Doom. Because it's fate. Anyway. It's because I just call the comic Brothers. It's Brothers. But still. Zero skill in all forms of art? I disagree. You're an excellent storyteller, Paul. So. Anyhow, thank you all so much for tuning in and watching my little art stream here. we're wrapping it up for the day. I have so much more art I gotta do on the side and so many other things to prep. And I'd like to get outside and actually see the sun before it goes down. Because it's 1:30, and in case you guys didn't know, I live in Vermont in a bunch of valleys. So at about 4 o'clock, sun starts disappearing real fast. But yes, thank you all so much for tuning in to another one of my webcomic art streams. I appreciate you all. I hope you have a lovely day. And, well, take care, Voyagers. And keep an eye out for the webcomic. And, oh yeah, one final little detail to mention for the billionth time. If you want to support the channel, you can find all my little links in the chat below. Like, subscribe, and hey, support me on Patreon. That shit helps. Take care, folks. Peace.